The Israel-Palestine conflict is one of the most enduring and complex geopolitical issues of our time. It is a conflict rooted in competing claims to land and national identity, fueled by decades of mistrust, violence, and political maneuvering. The region now encompassing Israel and the Palestinian territories has long been a crossroads of civilizations, a land of immense religious and historical significance for Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike. The Zionist movement, emerging in the late 19th century, sought to establish a Jewish state in their ancient homeland, then under Ottoman rule. Meanwhile, the Arab population of Palestine, the majority at the time, harbored their own aspirations for self-rule. The seeds of this conflict were sown long before the creation of Israel in 1948. But that pivotal year marked a turning point, igniting a cycle of wars and displacement that continues to this day. In 1917, amidst the chaos of World War I, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration. This statement expressed support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. It pledged support for a Jewish national home in Palestine without clearly defining what this entailed or how it would affect the existing Arab population. The declaration also called for safeguarding the civil and religious rights of non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Britain, seeking to garner support from the Zionist movement during WI, saw a strategic advantage in establishing a Jewish presence in Palestine. The declaration fueled Jewish immigration to Palestine, exacerbating tensions with the Arab population. The British, caught between their conflicting promises to Jews and Arabs, found themselves ill-equipped to manage the escalating violence that ensued. The year 1948 witnessed a seismic shift in the landscape of the Middle East with the creation of the State of Israel. The war that accompanied Israel's birth, known as the Nakba, catastrophe by Palestinians, resulted in the expulsion of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes and lands. In 1967, the Six-Day War resulted in Israel's capture of the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza Strip, Sinai Peninsula, and Golan Heights. This victory led to the further displacement of Palestinians and the beginning of Israel's occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. Subsequent conflicts, including the 1973 Yom Kippur War and the two intifadas, further entrenched the cycle of violence and mistrust. The Oslo Accords, signed in the 1990s, offered a glimmer of hope, aiming for a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders. However, the peace process ultimately faltered, undermined by continued violence, settlement expansion, and a lack of trust between the parties. The United States has played a pivotal role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict since its inception. In 1948, President Harry Truman made the momentous decision to recognize the newly declared State of Israel. This decision, while lauded by many, particularly within the American Jewish community, was not without its detractors. Truman's decision was driven by a complex interplay of factors, including the Holocaust and the emerging Cold War rivalry with the Soviet Union. The US recognition of Israel marked the beginning of a special relationship between the two countries. The US has provided Israel with billions of dollars in military and economic aid over the decades. This unwavering support has been a constant in an otherwise volatile region, cementing Israel's position as a regional power. Critics argue that this support has also created a sense of impunity, emboldening Israel to act unilaterally. The US-Israel relationship extends far beyond mere diplomatic recognition. It's a multifaceted alliance built on shared strategic interests, solidified through decades of military and economic cooperation. Militarily, Israel enjoys a privileged status as a major ally, non-NATO ally, granting it access to advanced weaponry and intelligence sharing. The US provides Israel with approximately $3.8 billion in military aid annually. Economically, the US is Israel's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade exceeding $50 billion annually. The US-Israel Free Trade Agreement, signed in 1985, eliminated most tariffs between the two countries. Critics argue that this unwavering support has also created a sense of impunity, emboldening Israel to act unilaterally. The US-Israel military alliance extends beyond financial aid and arms sales. It encompasses a deep and multifaceted technological collaboration, granting Israel access to cutting-edge military hardware and know-how. Israel is a major recipient of US foreign military financing, FMF, which allows it to purchase advanced American-made weaponry. The F-35 Joint Strike Fighter is a prime example of this technological transfer, bolstering Israel's air superiority in the region. Collaboration extends beyond procurement, encompassing joint research and development programs in areas such as missile defense and cyber warfare. Israel, with its own thriving tech sector, has become a valuable partner for the US in developing and testing new technologies. This close technological cooperation has significant implications for the balance of power in the Middle East. The influence of the pro-Israel lobby in shaping American foreign policy cannot be ignored. This lobby, comprising various organizations and individuals, exerts its influence through campaign contributions, grassroots activism, and media outreach. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, plays a pivotal role in shaping the debate on US policy in the Middle East. AIPAC's annual policy conference draws thousands of attendees, including members of Congress from both sides of the aisle. The lobby's effectiveness stems from its ability to mobilize support for Israel within both the Democratic and Republican parties. Critics argue that the pro-Israel lobby's influence has stifled open debate on US policy in the Middle East. They contend that this stifling of debate has hindered the pursuit of a more balanced and even-handed approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The unwavering US military and technological support for Israel has created a stark imbalance of power in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel, with its advanced weaponry and well-trained military, possesses overwhelming military superiority over the Palestinians. This disparity allows Israel to control borders, restrict movement, and conduct military operations in Palestinian territories with relative impunity. The Palestinians, lacking a conventional army or advanced weaponry, are left with limited options for leverage. This military imbalance has created a situation where Israel, as the stronger party, has little incentive to make meaningful concessions in peace negotiations. The US-Israel relationship reverberates far beyond the confines of the Middle East, impacting global perceptions and influencing international relations. The US, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, has repeatedly used its veto power to shield Israel from international censure. This practice has drawn criticism from many countries, particularly in the global south. The US-Israel relationship has become a focal point for broader geopolitical tensions. The rivalry between the US and its allies on one hand and Russia, China and their partners on the other has played out in the context of the Middle East. This polarization has further complicated efforts to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. As long as the US continues to provide Israel with unconditional support, the conflict will continue to be a source of instability and resentment. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict presents a formidable challenge to peacemakers. The current impasse, characterized by a lack of trust, continued violence, and the expansion of Israeli settlements, offers little reason for optimism. A just and lasting peace requires a fundamental shift in the dynamics of the conflict. The US, as Israel's closest ally, bears a special responsibility to facilitate a just and lasting peace. Ultimately, the path to peace lies in dialogue, reconciliation, and a shared vision for the future.